Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flint. With us today, Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin, who serves the 107th Assembly District, which includes the counties of Rensselaer, Columbia, and Washington. Assemblyman McLaughlin, nice to see you.
Good to be here.
All right, smack dab in the middle of July. Temperatures are in the low 90s today. It's hot, but it's cool in here, which is a good thing.
No tie today. It's too hot.
Let's start with the most recent news, the flooding in upstate New York and the federal money's coming our way.
Well, it's another tragedy that area of the state has gone through again, and they're fighting hard like they always do out there. But it's a complete failure on the part of this president, and I view it as a failure on the part of this governor so far. We'll see if he follows through and actually appeals. We just found out last night that FEMA is not going to come through with any individual money for the individual homeowners. They are going to come through with some money for the public entities, or the public side of things, if you will. But those homeowners are not going to get anything from FEMA. This is not a time to play politics. The president has failed once again, the people of upstate New York. And if this governor doesn't appeal that decision immediately, and he should have done so already, at the time we're taping this, it's about 14, 15 hours since that decision's come out. He should have already appealed it. He should be holding daily press conferences, yelling at Congress and yelling at the president, just like he was doing when Superstorm Sandy hit down in the southern part of the state, in the city. So he should be doing that exact same thing, and I fully expect that he's going to be doing it. And if he's not going to be doing that on a daily basis, then he's going to hear from the rest of us that think he should be doing it.
Is that why? Do you think he's not doing it because it took place upstate New York as opposed to downstate? Or?
I mean, you never know where politics is going to interject itself, but the fact is there's no doubt his numbers are tanking in upstate New York, and this would be a way for the state, if, as he said, well, the state's going to come in and take care of things. Well, that's still taxpayer money, by the way. That's our money that's going to fix it. We're happy to do that. We have to get involved and help the people. But is he trying to come in and be the white knight? I don't know. What I do know is that he should have appealed that decision to FEMA already, and he should have done so very loudly.
As we tape this program, no declination as yet.
Well, we have the declination for the public side of things, but there's not going to be any individual money from FEMA flowing to those homeowners, those individual homeowners. Now, FEMA's saying it doesn't rise to the level of catching their attention, if you will, or the amount of monetary damage. It absolutely does rise to that level. It's $32.5 million so far. That's probably not the end of it, but that clearly exceeds their threshold. He should be getting involved in this. The governor should be yelling about it, and I would expect and hope and demand daily press conferences from him, beating on Washington just as he did when Sandy hit. And if you remember, everybody watching will remember the delays that took place to get the money from Washington to New York State during Superstorm Sandy. Well, we don't want to go through that here in upstate New York, and there's no reason for the people of upstate New York to be abandoned.
With a session about a month removed, I mean, give me your overall views of the 2013 legislative session. How productive was it? Was it productive?
I don't think it was productive at all. I think it was a wasted session. Corruption overtook the session, and rightfully so. I mean, there was scandal after scandal after scandal. I don't think the governor got much of anything done. He got a couple of his bills through, but there was quite a few things. He certainly jammed the SAFE Act down everyone's throat on day one and day two of the session. But other than that, the session rapidly fell apart. No mandate relief, no real tax relief, and sort of a rudderless ship type approach from this governor. I think he's out of ideas. He's using these rehashed, warmed-over ideas that they just rename them. For example, Startup New York. That's not any different than the Empire Zones really were, or these tech hotspots that took place a year ago that haven't even germinated yet. Nothing's even happened with those, but we're abandoning those, and then all of a sudden we're going to go to this new Startup New York tax-free scam that they've got running, where certain people are going to get tax-free benefits, but the rest of the business owners out there and the rest of the people out there continue to pay enormously high taxes. I think it was a wasted session. I don't think much got done, and that's pretty much the opinion of the press as well, and most of the public, that really not a lot got done.
We'll come back to Startup New York in a couple of minutes. You mentioned the scandals, the speaker embroiled in a couple of them. There was a press conference towards the end of session on the speaker's troubles. I want to take a look at that now. You spoke there. We'll come back and we'll comment further with Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin.
I would just say that if this was the first time this has happened, it'd be one too many. But this is a repeating pattern with this speaker, where repeated cover-ups have occurred. If you look back, as I did, to the quotes that were issued during the Michael Boxley situation, they're almost identical to what was said a week ago. So I think that this has got to come to an end, and it's time for the people of New York, it's time for this governor, it's time for our Democratic colleagues to stand up and demand that the speaker step down. This cannot stand. And if we're talking about protecting women, which we're all concerned about, how can you turn a blind eye to this type of abuse that's gone on repeatedly here? And it really is enough type of thing. So you have an opportunity here, our Democratic colleagues do, to hold a vote of no confidence, and I hope that they do that. And also, I just want to reiterate something that Assemblyman Lawler said. I think that there is a very real possibility, or at least it should be investigated. Was that check mailed out of the state? Was it mailed within the state? There's a real possibility that it was in fact mailed, and if that check was gotten through conspiracy to commit fraud, if you will, if he lied about what the use of that money was for, then there's a very real possibility here that something criminal took place. And I think at the very least we need to take a look at that. So that's what we're calling on the Attorney General, the District Attorney here in Albany, and if need be a U.S. Attorney to get involved and investigate so that we can fully and finally get to the bottom of what went on. Thank you.
You are alluding to the Vito Lopez scandal, former Assemblyman. Mail fraud is a federal crime.
Right.
What's the status on that?
Well, we're going to continue to follow up on that. We are trying to discover, where did that check go? Was it mailed out of the Speaker's office, or was it mailed from the state of New York to somebody out of state? Even if it was in state, if it was mailed and there was a conspiracy to commit fraud, which I believe there was, he lied about what the use of the money was for. And you can see it says legal services. There was not legal services. It was for a settlement is what that was for. I believe that's a conspiracy to commit fraud. We're going to continue to press that issue and continue to follow up, because the fact that he's still standing as Speaker of the Assembly is nothing short of disgusting and disgraceful. And the silence coming from this governor, same thing, absolutely disgraceful that he doesn't have the courage to stand up and call for this Speaker to go. It is long past time. Anybody in the private sector that did what this Speaker did would be fired and probably arrested. So it's outrageous what went on. It goes much beyond Vito Lopez, too. So, and like I said on the tape there, this is not the first time for this Speaker. He covered up many, many instances of abuse. In the Michael Boxley case, rape, and now Michael Boxley's back in the building as a paid lobbyist. The people of New York should be absolutely outraged about what's going on around here.
I don't think a lot of them realize what's going on. They don't know. How many New Yorkers know Boxley's back in the employ?
Not many. That's the problem. I think when they hear about it, they're outraged. But so many are so busy with their lives every day, they don't pay as much attention to what's going on inside this building. But it is really out of hand what's going on with this Speaker. And for my Democrat colleagues to sit there silently and continue not even silently, to vocally support this man, to stand beside him and issue their support and reiterate their support for him is absolutely unbelievable. Because on the other 2 seconds later, they're yelling about a fictitious war on women.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you clean up your own house first? Why don't you show some moral courage first? And then we can talk about this made-up war on women that they keep talking about. This is an actual war on women taking place right here in the halls of the Assembly.
And your female colleagues across the aisle are totally in support of the Speaker.
Unbelievable. They go to dinner with him. They had breakfast with him. They reiterate their support. The reality is this, and every woman in the state should know it right now, they don't care about the women of the state. They care about protecting themselves. The only women that they seem to care about are the women that are inside that Assembly chamber on their side of the aisle. That's who they're protecting, because they're not protecting the women of the state. They could send a clear signal that this behavior is not going to be tolerated by throwing the Speaker out of office. And all they've got to do is hold a vote of no confidence, and he'd be gone.
Just on this, one follow-up, is Albany County DA David Soares working on the mail fraud issue? Or
I don't expect too much out of that office, quite honestly. I think that it has to go above that. I think this should be something that the U.S. Attorney is going to have to take a look at.
You mentioned Startup New York. They even had to change the name. It was
Tax-free
New York.
Yeah, it didn't poll well.
Yeah.
And within a week, they rebranded it and rolled it out as this Startup New York.
That sounds good, doesn't it?
A lot of what they do sounds really good. It sounds like, how could you be against it? How could you be against certain things? They title things very, very well, but oftentimes that has nothing to do with what's in the actual bill. Startup New York, I got to tell you, 100% of the emails coming into my office, my constituents are opposed to this because they see it for what it is. It is a scam. It is a fraud. And really what it is an admission of how bad it is to do business in the state of New York, that we have to somehow bribe businesses to open up their doors here. That's not the case in every state in the nation. There are many states doing quite well. They have low taxes, low government spending, and therefore they are thriving. When people have more money in their pockets, they're going to reinvest it in their economy. It's going to make the churn of money happen. This is all about making it look like we're doing something. But meantime, all of the hard-working business owners in my district, they get absolutely nothing. But somebody can come in inside the protected bubble of a college, open up tax-free, and then their employees don't pay any state income tax either for 10 years. It's absolutely outrageous, and it's unfair to the business owners of this area.
I think you made some of those same arguments on the Assembly floor recently. Let's take a look at that, and we're back with Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin.
This vote could go either way. There is definitely a few things in this bill that are somewhat of a step in the direction, but I also believe the bill is an admission of how bad New York's climate is. Number 49 on the list of business-friendly states from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation, an F from the Manufacturing Council of the United States. We are not getting the job done. Now, I understand that you could say this is a step in the right direction, and it is a very small step. But I believe, as John F. Kennedy did, that a rising tide lifts all boats. And my loyalty lies with the people of my district, those entrepreneurs, those business owners that get up every single day and pound through this economy that has struggled for far too long. I want to help them. That's what we should be doing, is reaching out to them, making their life a little better, their life a little bit easier. I think this is what happens. This bill was thrown together at the last minute because we have a governor whose ratings are tanking in upstate New York. Let's face facts. That's what this is all about. It wasn't in the state of the state. It wasn't even on his radar. He threw this together. It was supposed to be a lifeline for upstate New York. Suddenly we've drawn in the entire state. Not that the entire state doesn't need a better business climate. It does. But you've got to help every business that's existing right now. Level the playing field for all of them. Cut their taxes. Make their life easier, and things will grow. This is what happens when you have leadership, a governor that has never spent a day of his life in the private sector, has no idea what makes an economy grow. And it's by helping all businesses succeed and thrive. That's what brings new businesses in, a thriving economy. Look to the other states that are doing a little bit better than New York and find a way to do what they're doing.
Makes eminent sense to me. Cut taxes, reduce regulation. It works every time.
Rising tide lifts all boats, as I said
that.
there.
Yeah.
That's what John F. Kennedy said, and he's right. John F. Kennedy would have a hard time finding a home in the Democrat Party today. He'd be too conservative for them.
For sure, yeah.
But that's what makes an economy grow. If I put money in everybody's pockets, or this government cuts taxes for everyone, they're by and large they're going to spend it. And even if they save it, it's getting invested so someone else is going to spend it when they borrow that money from a bank. That's what makes the flow of money go. It's proven 100 times, constantly. It's proven every single time it's tried. It always works. But we have a governor here that has no private sector experience at all. He's a bureaucrat, and he does not have any idea what entrepreneurs go through and what they're dealing with out there. They need to be able to live in a lower tax, lower regulatory, common sense regulations, but we have far too many of them here in New York. That's what's going to make an economy grow.
If you do come back for a special session to approve the money for the Fort Plain area, do you see anything else popping up on the agenda?
Yeah, well, they did not get their 10-point Women's Equality Act through. We were all in favor of all 9 points, but that 10th point late-term abortion in the last trimester, 80% of New Yorkers oppose that. Aside from what NARAL lies about and says that 80% support it, that's not true. They support the Women's Equality Act in general. 80% of New Yorkers, 80% of Americans oppose abortion in the last trimester. Yeah. And I think they're going to try to tie that together. It would not shock me around here if they tie it together with this flood relief.
Very good. Steve McLaughlin, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon on the next edition of Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flynn.